Welcome to the Life Lift Podcast, the podcast for the ambitious, the purpose-driven, and the ones who know they're meant for more. If you're ready to unlock the next version of yourself, you're in the right place.
Hey everyone, I'm Kaly.
And I'm Adam, and this podcast is for people who are done playing small. Whether you're building a business, rethinking your identity, or just craving more from life.
We're two friends, entrepreneurs and growth junkies who have built businesses, hit burnout, and found our way back to purpose. And now we're here to help you do the same, but faster, clearer, and without breakdown. Let's get started. Hi friends, it's Kaly and Adam, and welcome to the very first episode of Life Lift. Today we're going to be talking about why you should be listening to us, what we have to share, and the values that we've learned through trials and trials and trials that you don't have to hopefully go through as long as we did, and so that you can get there faster and bolder than ever before.
And this is going to be a great journey to take you on with us. This is the start of our journey as we do these podcasts and live events that are coming soon. But we really want you to join us at each episode as we share our learnings from the years of working, thriving, sometimes crying, lots of crying. But really, we've both hit burnout in our careers, and we've built some great businesses at the same time, traveled the world, worked with some incredible brands. And the purpose of this podcast is to share as much as we possibly can, wring out all of our learning as two friends that have done this together for the last 10 years now with you. So strap yourselves in. It's going to be funny.
Hopefully inspiring.
Hopefully it's inspiring. I'm sure there'll be some tears along the way as we are very honest with you about what we've learned and our knocks and bangs along the way. But yeah, it's going to be great.
What brought you here today? Because you've had an amazing, colourful career.
Thank you. I've been lucky in my life that I've worked all over the world. There were years where I was out of the country for 46 weeks out of 52, and having a family was really difficult doing that. I'll share all about that as we get going. But I've had a training career, built my own training business up from scratch, worked with Barclays Bank for many years, lived in India, and now have built a really unique clinic in Scotland that's now almost at capacity, which is fantastic after 2.5 years. I flipped property over my lifetime so far, many times over. I'm obsessed with interior design. So I can't say that I've done one specific thing, but I've got lots of things that have brought me to this point. And the reason I want to do this podcast is so that I can share and hopefully inspire as many people as possible to dream bigger, live better than they thought they possibly could do, to give people a nudge and be that friend that I wish I'd have had, that puts their arm around you and says, you've totally got this. You're going to need to grow and tweak some stuff along the way. But that's what I want to do with you as you listen to this. And as we've done many times over the last 10 years together, is this podcast is designed to put our arms around you and say, you've got this. Let's start having some fun and fulfilling the purpose that you've got in life.
And that's how we met, because 10 years ago, I was in a dental practice, NHS. There's so many boundaries, and the ceiling was a very much glass ceiling where I could see what I could be. And I was constantly told by principals, patients, society that I was never going to get there because of the geography I was in. And you were brought in to inspire, which is exactly what you've done. And I have become a product of your knowledge and what you had to share. Because before then, I just thought I was going to be 9 to 5 NHS dentist. I would get married, I'd have children, pay my taxes, and just have Monday blues on a Sunday and really live for the weekend. And I can't tell you how not my life that is. I live, every day is exciting. I'm constantly buzzing about the next project. And it's because you've allowed me to believe that you create your own universe. Definitely. I saw something recently and it said, what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail? Like if I knew I wouldn't fail, I would just do everything. But the only difference between doing that and not doing it is your mindset. So I think it's really important that we tap into that mindset that you have, that you also taught me to do. And that's a huge takeaway from today's episode, is your mindset and that powerhouse, or what I like to think you did to me and what I in turn have done to you. And we've taken turns in being the strong one, is supersize you. You know, when you go for a meal and they say, is that a large? It's
For 20p more?
for 20p more, honey. And I don't want
Let's
it.
be honest, we always take the extra 20p.
I always take it because I think I'm spending $3.50. What's 20p, right?
Exactly.
But you need to have that friend that's like supersize you. And sometimes when you are making decisions that are controversial, or you are shifting, you're shedding that skin, you are lonely, and we can be that podcast where we can supersize you, and you're not going to be so lonely again.
Yeah.
So what's the mindset that you would think, if there's one thing that people had to learn in your mindset of being the best at your career when you're talking on stage and then opening house and putting it at full capacity, what was the thing that kept you going when it was stressful? Because I know it was stressful. I was there with you, and you were only giving me like 10 to 20% of what was going on. So what was the thing that made you continue to push the boundaries and at every setback say, no, I'm just going to insist that it's going to be my way?
For me, I think in my life, I've had this fire in my belly from being a little boy that I did not want to be average. And there's nothing wrong with being a normal person, but I just had this thing that I just didn't want to be a 9-to-5er, you know, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. Like many people take a lot of comfort from having that structure, but for me, it was almost like a prison cell. So for me, my fire has always been there. And I think, you know, someone asked my mum the other day, has he always been like this? You know, has he always been like chatty and just wanted to get to the front of the queue and break the rules? And I have been like this since being a little boy. And I think from everything that I've done in my career and my life and everything that I've built around me, it's always come from doing something extraordinary. So if somebody says, Adam, you can't do that, then I will find a way of doing it just to prove people wrong. And so, you know, I remember when Connor and I, who's my husband, he's the cosmetic dentist for those of you that don't know him. And when we came up with this idea of what if we made a dental clinic that didn't look like a dental clinic, that actually when people came, that we could book flights into Prestwick Airport, or we could book people into a 5-star hotel. They can stay for a week and have a full smile makeover. No one does that in Scotland. And people laughed at us and was like, why would you do that in Scotland? You know, and that very sentence was like striking a match to say, okay, then I'm going to show you how to do it. And so that thing, that like rebellious, relentless need to,
I told you so.
Like I thrive off that. So, and I know you do as well. You know, we've talked about this many times of, you know, bucking against the boundary. So, so that fire is definitely what's fed me over the years. And then one of my first ever bosses said, you can have all the ambition in the world, but if you haven't got the skills to back it up, you ain't going to get there. And that really stuck with me, because I thought, if I want to be really good at something, if I want to make money, if I want to be able to interior design or whatever, I can't just have a go. I've actually got to put some commitment into it to learn the skills. You know, I've got to figure out, back it up. So, and then I've got to go for it and back myself, which I know is something.
But then, so what do you think about the phrase that everybody uses? I'm one of them. Fake it till you make it. Can you truly fake it?
No,
do you?
I hate that phrase. Yeah.
Oh, I'm a proper fake it till you make it. Yeah.
Well, for me, I have never faked it till I made it. I've always tried to learn it and then do it. Yeah.
Okay.
I may have failed in the process, but I think a lot of people fake it, and I think you can smell it. For me, I know instantly, as soon as somebody comes in, like take it, not saying that you're like this, but like somebody comes to try and sell you something, and you know they don't know
anything about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or you can sniff that out.
You can sniff it out. And so for me, I've always tried to learn as much as I can about whatever I'm doing so that I can't get sniffed out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that gives you the confidence that then I can do more, I can do it better.
So you're a planner and you're a planner.
Yeah.
But do you feel that slows you down sometimes because you're so busy trying to make sure it's perfect before you do it?
Not really, no, because for me anyway, I don't plan too much. Like anyone that knows me knows I am not a detail person really. I'm more of a big picture. Yeah. But I'm at the same time, I like to be organized, and I like to know where I'm going. I don't need to know all the different steps, but I want to know enough that I'm not going to derail myself. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
when did you start walking when you were little?
I actually don't know. I need to ask my mom.
The reason why I ask is I'm a twin. And when I started walking like 6 months before my sister, and my mom said that I was like, well, people are walking, so I've got to fake it till I make it. And I would just try and try and try. I would take one step, smash my face, take an afternoon off, and I'd try again, and I'd fall down the stairs, and I'd take it out, and I just kept trying until I could walk. Whereas my sister sat back, watched me make all the mistakes. She'd like put a toe in front and say, nah, not today. And she did eventually walk, but she was 6 months after me.
No way.
And that is exactly how we are in life as well. And that's why I'm asking, when did you start to walk? Because you sound like my sister. You're analytic. You make sure that everything's perfect, and you really train. And I think that's beautiful, because I sometimes look at her and think, oh my God, I wish I wasn't so reckless. Whereas I see the opportunity and I'm like, yes, let's go. Even if I'm not ready, I will figure it out when we're in there. And
but I'm like that too, though. As soon as I see something, I'm like, okay, we got to do this now. And then I'll just plan as quickly as I can. You know what I mean?
Because I maybe make my mistakes more openly then, whereas you're just more organized.
Yeah.
You have a plan A, B, and C, whereas I'm like, well, I'm here. Let's go.
This better work.
Yeah, I hope it works. And that is also the beauty in what we're trying to teach, because what we're trying to say is you have to be uncomfortable and you have to be brave.
Yeah.
None of the things that I did in becoming where I am and opening The Secret was comfortable or easy. Everything, there was a setback, everything felt wrong. And all the advice I was getting from my safekeepers was, it's too big, it's too much, it's too expensive, you're not going to be able to do it, it's too risky. And that I told you so, I suppose, is within me, because I kept wanting to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
But you have to be prepared to be uncomfortable.
You do.
That's a huge, huge point that I want the listeners to take away from today. Because only in uncomfort environments are you prepared to grow.
Definitely.
Have you heard of the lobster theory?
I have, but tell me about this, because I love this.
The lobster theory is that lobsters shed their skin 3 to 5 times in their lifetime. And what they have to do is they grow until it's so painful that their shell cracks. They then shed that shell, and then they're vulnerable and naked for a long time until their new skin and their new shell to their size grows again. And that is such a beautiful depiction of growth as you age, personally, professionally, in friendships, relationships. It gets painful. See, when you're really going through it, like you're feeling like everyone's coming at you at one go. You know, when they say it doesn't rain, it pours. When it's pouring, that's you shedding that skin, and you got to just let it shed. And then, yes, there's a space where you're vulnerable and people can attack you, and you just need to trust the process that you're going to grow that shell back again, and then it's on to the next phase.
Yeah, I love that.
I feel like I've gone through 2 lobster phases.
I was just going to say, I think that's a perfect story for how I've seen you grow and evolve as a person. Yeah.
Personally, I identify as a butterfly, but I'll take the lobster.
I'm more of an eagle, darling.
I know, I can see.
Let me ask you, for people that don't know who you are, how would you describe yourself to people that have never met Kaly Jeff, the incredible Kaly Jeff?
Why didn't you just introduce me?
She's beautiful. She's amazing.
Stop.
Look, serious, how would you describe yourself?
Professionally, so if I'm in a conference setting, it's a totally different way that I would introduce myself personally, or like friendship wise. I would say I am professionally, I'm in aesthetic medicine. I thrive off of creating a safe atmosphere and environment for my patients to allow themselves to celebrate the best version of themselves, because patients are coming to me and they are vulnerable, and I want them to be vulnerable, because if you're giving me the filtered version of what you don't like, I'm never going to be able to give you the perfect treatment plan. And that takes a while to break that down and build that rapport. But that's my main ethos, is I want you to be the best version of yourself, and we need to have a good relationship to get to the core of why you're there. And that's why I called it The Secret, because people leave a lot of secrets in the chair, and I love it. But also your treatments shouldn't be obvious. You should be leaving and people think, how are they aging backwards? Like, what in the Kris Jenner is going on? What's their secret? My mom actively is aging backwards, and she's my little guinea pig. So that's professionally how I'd introduce myself. Personally, I would say I am a typical Cancer, really hard-shelled, very confident. I'm sure of myself. I've backed myself to the heavens and back, which we'll go into in separate episodes about the boundaries that I had to break in society and my religion and how I was raised. But actually inside, I'm very soft. I'm extremely sensitive. I'm very critical, self-critical. I sometimes jeopardize situations that I'm in because I question it so much. Like, I feel guilty for being happy. I feel guilty about being successful. I don't want to, as you say, show off. And there's a huge part of me that's just vulnerable and a massive imposter that, like, who am I to have fled war and have this success? And if I talk about it too much, it'll be taken away. So just calm down. And then there's the other part of me that's like, you defied gravity, you worked your bum off. Actually, you are within your right to celebrate it. And it's that balance of all the time. And I think I try to be really transparent about that, because I don't want people to think that I am taking it for granted. Every single day I practice gratitude. I message my mom and dad every day. Thank you for being so brave to leave. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. And I'm just going to milk every last drop of that lemon and make lemonade until the day I die. And I want people to see that story and be inspired by it, because a lot of people, I've only really started talking about my journey recently in the last year or so. People are surprised. They think, oh, I thought you were private schooled, and I thought, your mom and dad have money. And I couldn't speak English till I was 10. I was homeless for the first year and a bit of moving to this country. I had every knockback as a female, as someone who was Middle Eastern, somebody who was raised as a Muslim. I went to a Catholic primary school. And then there's so many reasons why I shouldn't have what I have, but I have regardless. And this is just the beginning. Like, what I have planned for the future is the hard shell part of me. The crab is like, let's go, baby. And the soft side is like, just be grateful where you are and just quit while you're ahead. Stop. But I want to keep making shift happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I'd introduce myself. I guess a blurb of that. Depends how many drinks I've had.
Can I ask you, I think you're downplaying a little bit of how you've not built something ordinary. I don't think.
Thank you.
And I'm sure many people that know you would say what you've built is not ordinary. There are lots of places that do versions of what you have created, but what you've created is really unique and it's incredible. It's beautiful. You should be incredibly proud of yourself. And I know, hopefully you are.
Yeah.
Why did you do that and not play it safe?
Because I thought, if I'm going to do this, I might as well go do it with a bang. Because if I fall, then I hope the fall is so far that I pass out somewhere halfway and I don't have to feel the impact of the fail. I'm not just gonna open a clinic. And to be fair, a lot of the journey, that imposter side of me was just get a unit, just rent a unit and just have you, and just call it Kaly's Aesthetics or something. And it was actually Alex, my husband, who was like, no, you can be bigger than this. Why should you go small? And anytime I had reservations, I suppose it's because he's in the industry, he's in construction, he understands investment, whereas I just think of it as debt. And that mindset came from my family, because they had everything and then they lost it overnight. So any penny that came into my mom and dad's pocket had huge value and they were scared to spend. So that anxiety has passed on to me. And I had to change the mindset of how I looked at money. I don't know if you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Whereas Alex was raised in a household where everything is investment, there's no such thing as debt. So I have a lot to thank him for, to like push me. He was the one that was supersizing me and making sure that I was constantly uncomfortable. But also it's the I told you so personality in me that thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it with a bang. I never imagined it would be as big as it is. But as you know, with house, one thing leads to the next. And then before you know it, I've got a 3-story clinic, 9 rooms, a mezzanine, and the brand that I've built, which is The Secret. Yeah. But a lot of it is to do with your why. And I don't think that you've given enough credit to house as to your why. Nobody really knows why you call it house and why you've spelt it that way and what it means, because it's personal. And I know sometimes you don't maybe want to go into that, and that's why you just talk about the interiors and the exceptional service, and which is beautiful, it's great, yeah, but why is it house? Like, why did you call it house?
Gosh, that's a big question, really. So for those of you that don't know me, I well, I suppose I need to explain maybe a bit more of my story before I get to why it's called that, because house is really a culmination of every thread of my life tied up into one building. So was born in a super religious family, church sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a week, twice on a Sunday at least. Grew up, got engaged when I was 19, got married to my ex-wife when I was 21, 2 kids, and all the time working away and traveling the world working, setting up my own business during the last recession, which was crazy really, but that's what I did. And then started to sell training to hotels and Chanel, Louis Vuitton. I thought I may as well go for the big ones because the luxury always has money.
Yeah.
And it's true, by the way, in recession, it's the rich that always get richer. So, and did you know this, that 5-star hotels, whenever there's a downturn, 5-star hotels build more hotels in that time than they ever do in any other time. It's a fact, because people that have got money
to buy and sell.
And why do you spend money on a resort? It's to feel good. And so 5-star Louis Vuitton went like this. For those of you who can't see me, I'm doing like a rocket to the moon. In every recession, there's always a spike in luxury. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to sell training to Four Seasons and to Jumeirah Hotels and to Rosewood. And so that's what I did for 10 years. And worked with some incredible brands. And I always loved the fashion and the design,
the glam.
Like the fashion houses. I was so lucky to work for Chanel, and I'll tell some stories of some of the, hardcore stuff.
Have you ever met Carl?
I haven't met Carl, sadly not. No, I would probably have married Carl. Is Carl a gay man? I think he probably is. So. I hope so too.
He must be.
So I always loved like the fashion and the edgy, the design, the luxury of it all. And so then when I met my husband, so I broke up with my ex-wife and came out as a gay man. And that was a whole thing that, one of the lowest points of my whole entire life. But anyway, came through that, took me a long time, and a lot of people and whole new friendship group and stuff.
You shed your shell.
In a big way, yeah. That nearly killed me. Like, seriously, I don't say that lightly. That was the biggest dip in my whole entire life. And I remember at the time thinking, I didn't know anybody that was gay and that had kids that had come out. And I had this thing of like my kids were going to get taken off me because I was gay. And now looking back, it's kind of crazy to think that way. But at the time, that was my reality. Like I only knew people in church that were telling me that I was going to go to hell anyway because I'm gay, and that I didn't deserve to have my kids anymore. And then my ex-wife, she was obviously processing this whole life change because she didn't work and we lived off my income, so she had a lovely life. And it wasn't all roses, but it was nice, it was comfortable. And so that ending for her, and then me thinking, well, what am I going to do now? So all of that while still building up my own training business and traveling 46 weeks out of 52 and having 2 kids. That was, juggling all of that really made me quite, now looking back, it made me very strong, I think, as a person, and quite robust. And so the thing though that I took from all that was this luxury, the like flamboyance, the how people make money. That fascinated me, how buying a handbag that some brands can sell that costs next to nothing to make can sell for £1,000. That fascinated me, how people were able to do that and how we market that and make people believe that it's worth that money. So that was all of what I was teaching and working in, and that was my whole life for 10 years more, really. And so then when I met my husband now, boyfriend at the time, and he was a dentist, and I thought, I remember on our first date, we were in Chao Phraya in Glasgow.
I love it there.
Loved Chao Phraya. And so I remember asking him, who does your like communications training? How do you know how to like talk about treatment and stuff? And he was like, well, nobody. There's like this one guy who, I'll not say his name because I don't want to give him any credit.
I know who he is.
Yeah, A-L, the initials.
I know who he is.
And
he was the only one that was doing it.
He was the only one. Yeah. And I thought, so I looked him up straight away and I was like, oh my God, he's like this older guy.
He was faking it.
He was
faking it.
He was riding a good train there. So anyway, I decided that I was going to do that in dentistry. So I started to use Connor as my guinea pig for all the stuff I would teach to Louis Vuitton and Chanel and Four Seasons about how to talk about stuff. And, all the glam and the zhuzh and the whole show. And I remember I would get him to stand and come and greet me. So I would be sat on the sofa in his apartment and I say, okay, right, go. You go stand at the door. I'm a patient. come and get me.
Oh gosh, you're the best date ever.
Yeah, I mean, he got a lot of free training. So and I was saying, no, stop, go back, do it again, stop, do it again, do it again. And so he was really like my guinea pig way back. And so fast forward then to, he worked in a clinic that was about to get bought over by a big corporate company. And we'd had this dream for a long time of fusing together my world of interior, fashion, hospitality,
and his world of medicine.
And his world of medicine. Yeah. So house is spelt the German way after a fashion house. And that's, a lot of fashion houses are designed where you have a central mother-father figure, and they then look after the family. And in gay culture, we have gay houses that often, when people that are gay come out, they sometimes are kicked out of the family or they are ostracized and they have nowhere to go. And so gay people will form, and still do today, houses that they would live in together, usually where you have a couple of the older members of the house that would be mum and dad, and they would look after the children, and they would make sure that everyone's fed, watered, that, you know, they help them get jobs or, you know, try and survive.
Life skills and...
Yeah, all of that. So house, I wanted to create something that was like a fashion house, or like a gay house that in the 80s were very, very common in the ballroom scene in New York, and then it came over to London. And but basically the whole idea that it was this community of people that are like-minded, that are building something bigger than themselves. And that's where House of Dentistry came from. Also, HOUSE of Dentistry was taken.com. So I had to come up and get creative. So that's why it's called the German Way House. But it's the German house because of the engineering and the medical side that is obviously synonymous with Germany. You know, the engineering, the precision, the detail. So that's House of Dentistry.
The fashion and the community.
With engineering.
But in your story and in your history, the personal aspect that you've not pinned on it, and it might be that you're self-protecting, is a sense of safety. Yeah. Because obviously, in the gay sense, for that community, the house was then their safe space. Yeah. And somewhere where they were safe enough to grow. And that's what you're creating at House of Dentistry. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing that I'm trying to create. It's somewhere where you can come, be vulnerable, and not feel like there's any judgment. And actually, in your vulnerability, you get equal and opposite correlation to success. So the more vulnerable you are, the more I'm able to create that plan for you, that smile for you, the experience for you. And I think that's a huge part of why I wanted people to hear why you called it House. Because yes, you're really going on about the fashion, but I know you personally, it's actually about the community and the safety. And when I worked at House when it first launched, and whenever we're doing our team meetings in the morning, which was every morning, it was always about, let's look after our patients today. This is who's coming in. You would tell me, this is who's coming in. She's such and such, and she does this, so that when they came in, they already felt like I knew them. Family. Like family. And that safety aspect is really important. Yeah. And another thing that is really successful to the brand is that people feel like it's personal, and the secret's the same. Because it's personal to me, and it's personal to you. And for people that are trying to be successful and can't, pop their head up from the crowd, you got to find your why. And if your why is, I want to make people feel safe, then figure out how you feel safe, and then how you want to depict that in your business. Yeah. And it goes for everything. You could be doing nails, lashes, teeth whitening, aesthetic dent medicine. People have to feel valued and safe. Yeah. And in an industry and in a world where everything is so like you can get food within 2 minutes, you can get a match within a second of being rejected from the last one. If you don't like something on Netflix, there's 7 billion other shows that you can have. People don't have time to just think and be. And that's what House and the secret, I think, is that we've created that little safe space. I heard this thing, and I totally believe this, that you can only replicate what you are. And I think a lot of people, I get asked a lot, how did you start with nothing? Because we did. I was super poor, grew up with absolutely nothing, no private school for me. God, I think, imagine if I had, I'd probably been. God, the uniforms are so bougie. Thank you. I just wanted to go to a Catholic school with a little totally kilt. Cute. You don't get that in public school. I know, it's very Britney. So, but I think people have this sometimes image of what I have had to get to where I am. Same. Nothing. I can tell you nothing. And
everything that we've ever done has been self-made and, begged, borrowed, pled, literally wrung every drop out of everything. But I'm a big believer that you can only replicate what you are.
Yeah.
And this is why, the fake it till you make it thing. If you fake it, you don't have the substance to back it up. Like you can only replicate what you actually have inside. And this is why I'm a big believer that you have to top up the tank. There's always going to be a level that the water leaks out of. And that's what you can replicate, So my goal and my visual of my life is, if I'm like a big barrel of water, when I'm young, I'm leaking at the bottom because I'm not strong enough yet to plug the gaps.
Yeah.
But as you get older,
it fills.
And my job is to plug those holes so that it can fill higher, so I've got a bigger well to draw from. And that's why I think for anybody that wants to build something brilliant, you can only replicate who you are. So if you're not already brilliant at something, then get brilliant at it.
Yeah.
Like you were brilliant before you set the secret up. I had a great training company before I set House up. Connor was a brilliant cosmetic dentist before we had. So it's not like it just happened, because we have the secret. Because a lot of people say, oh, well, if I had a clinic like yours, well, I'd be doing good. You won't. You absolutely can't.
Listen, I was in a room with no windows and carpets in Govan. And with two principals telling me that I was like, I think we should do 1 day private. I'm working 5 days a week. 1 day should be private. They said, you're never going to fill up 1 day private in Govan. Babe, I'm booked up till September. For those that are listening, it's June. And it's fully private and I work sometimes 6 days a week. It's you need to back yourself. And this is, you have to be brilliant. If you need to do the work, the self-work, and that's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
To believe that within yourself, to then unleash the secret, the house, then hopefully that's something that you can learn today.
Yeah.
So what are the main takeaways from today, would you say?
The main thing I would say from today is, for me, go big and follow the fire that is in your heart, mind, whatever wherever you put that fire being in your body, use that to fuel you forward. But do stuff to get good at it.
Yeah.
Practice. And for me, I don't want to fake it till I make it. I want to keep trying till I make it. And it's okay to make some mistakes, but I think you've got to believe in yourself, big style, even when it gets tough. And we're going to talk a lot about this and our ups and major downs in other episodes. But, I think if you've got a fire in your belly, you've got to push on it and believe in yourself enough that you're going to go forward and do it, but you've got to get good at it. You can't just try.
Yeah.
Is one thing for me. What about for you?
I have two major points from today. Number one is be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because it is uncomfortable and it's lonely and people are going to criticize you. And the ones that you think are close to you will back you until you get confident. Then when you get confident, they don't like it anymore. And try and figure out when to sacrifice your queen. And the second one is find your why. You need to know what you're doing it for, because otherwise it's just mumble jumble. You're just floating around. You have to have direction. You have to know the ending of your story so you know how you're going to get there. And our why was a safe space. So find your why, get ready to be uncomfortable, and when you're going to get there, you're going to do it big. I hope you've learned something from today and you're inspired. And if you want to share this with your friends, family, colleagues, so that you can be inspired with them as well, please do. And don't forget to like and subscribe and join us again for more.
This is the Life Lift podcast with Adam and Kaly, where we look at how to make shift happen. From our home to yours, we hope you feel inspired and motivated to do at least one thing differently today as you make your own shift happen towards a more rewarding and fulfilling life filled with purpose and happiness.